The one to watch. This is 16 WAPT News, live at 6.
Yes, indeed, a live look outside our South Jackson sky cam. Not as dark and early as usual. Thank you so much for joining us anyway. Earl Arms here. Brooke Glazer also joins us now with your weather first. Good morning, Brooke. There are 4 candidates running for U.S. Senate in the special election. Toby Bartee, Mike Espy, Cindy Hyde-Smith, and Chris McDaniel. Remember, the polls are open Tuesday from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. Now, some polls suggest that there could be some big changes in Congress. 16 WAPT's Mark Sandalow joins us live in Washington. Mark, good morning to you, but we'll start with the big picture first. What's at stake come Tuesday?
Earl, if the Democrats were to win control of either the House or the Senate, and the polls suggest the Senate probably is out of reach, but the House is very much in reach, President Trump's agenda is dead, at least in terms of limiting immigration or building a wall. He might be able to cut deals with Democrats, but his agenda as he wants it will be replaced with, environmental legislation, which won't get past the Senate, maybe some investigations into Donald Trump. If Republicans surprise the pollsters and hold on to the House of Representatives and the Senate, you got to believe there are going to be a lot of emboldened Republicans who are going to jump onto Trump's agenda and push it forward. I wouldn't be surprised if they got rid of the filibuster just to make sure they get some of it through. And don't forget that we have elections for thousands of state legislators across the country and governors, and they will determine the voting boundaries once the census comes out that helps to define the congressional seats for the next 10 years. Big election.
That fits right into my next question, Mark. How does Mississippi state races fit into the national picture?
So Mississippi is so reliably Republican at this point that no one really expects big changes. I mean, you've got Benny Thompson, from Jackson, who is supposed to win re-election. If you look through most states, there are competitive congressional elections. There are not, at least for the House in Mississippi right now. Everyone expects they'll continue to send, 3 Republicans, a Democrat. Benny Thompson, by the way, if Democrats were to win the majority, he would go from being the second most important person on the Homeland Security Committee to chair of that committee, which means he gets to hire staff, he sets an agenda. So for Congressman Thompson, it makes a difference. And your Senate race is just too confusing for people outside Mississippi to understand. The whole jungle primary business, but the one thing everyone does understand in Washington is it would be a shock if it's not a Republican in the Senate coming from Mississippi.
All right, 16 WAPT's Mark Sandalow, our political analyst. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Now, both politicians and celebrities are out trying to get people to vote, with many voters taking advantage of early voting. ABC's Ty Hernandez continues our Commitment 2018 coverage. And speaking of celebrities, John Legend is in Ohio trying to get people to vote. He's the featured performer at a Get Out the Vote event for the Hamilton County Democratic Party. The event also coincides with the Souls to the Polls campaign, meant to encourage people to go to houses of worship to get out and vote. Last month, Legend was in Florida at an event supporting voting rights for felons. And 16 WAPT is committed to making sure you're informed about midterm elections. We're having a discussion with a panel of experts about the candidates and some of the big issues leading up to Election Day. Now, some of those issues are America's drug problem, health care, Russia meddling in the American elections, and the Supreme Court. Our Commitment 2018 Roundtable airs this afternoon at 4:30 right here on 16 WAPT. Breaking news this morning, at least 9 people have died in a flood in Italy. It happened in a countryside town in Sicily. A river filled with rain caused water to rush inside a home. Storms hit the southern part of Italy after the country's northern region got bad weather and flooding for days. At least 15 people died in northern Italy during that flooding. And also breaking this morning, search teams in Indonesia lifted the turbine engine and other parts of a Lion Airjet that crashed. This is almost a week after 189 people died when that plane went down in the Java Sea. Now, the search teams used a crane attached to a ship to lift the engine, aircraft walls, and a wheel. Authorities say the muddy waters and the depth of the sea are hampering search teams from finding the cockpit voice recorder. The Mississippi High School Activities Association is looking into a fight after a football game that was so bad, one player had to be sent to the hospital. A viewer actually sent us this video, which shows the fight starting once Pisgah and Emmett County started shaking hands Friday night. The executive director says school officials from each district have 48 hours after the incident to submit their information about what happened. Then they'll start their investigation.
If there's any video, we certainly want to look at that too. But basically, you know, we work with our member schools on this. Obviously, our administrators were there. We had game managers there, and we'll try to get statements and try to make sure that we have all the information that we can obtain before we make any kind of decision.
The MHSAA expects to meet school officials tomorrow. They do say the Pisgah player that had to be sent to the hospital was treated and released. We're learning more about one of the victims in that shooting at a yoga studio in Florida. Police say the shooter acted like he was a customer before he started shooting, eventually killing 2 women and injuring 5 other people. And as Michael Seaton reports, one of those victims was about to graduate from college. Now, a vigil is planned for tonight on Florida State's campus, and the family has also planned a memorial service. The time is now 6:11, and Brooke joins us now with another look at our Sunday forecast.